This interview is a paid advertisement. It was produced on behalf of the company and is considered investor relations activity under Canadian securities law. All statements and opinions are those of the guest and should not be construed as investment advice. Please do your own due diligence or consult a registered investment advisor. Hello and welcome back to the Gold Newsletter channel. Here from the floor of the New Orleans Investment Conference, hosted by our good friend and co-host of this channel, Brien Lundin. My name is Kai Hoffmann. I'm the GoldMining guy over on X, and I'm joined by Alastair Still. He's the president and CEO over at GoldMining. Alastair, it's a great pleasure to have you here on the show. Thanks so much for joining us in New Orleans.
Thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to chatting today.
Yeah, really appreciate you taking time during the lunch break.
Yeah.
It's very nice and quiet, actually. It's fantastic for an interview right now to talk with us about gold mining. Let's start on the high level basis. Sure. Who is gold mining?
So gold mining, I guess, is a little different than your typical junior explorer or developer. We're a company that's been around for more than 10 years. We've built up a large portfolio of assets, gold focused in the Americas, multiple projects with a big resource base. But we've also now accumulated a sizable treasury consisting of marketable securities and cash, all that forming into a company that can advance these assets, unlock value for our shareholders.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, that sounds really interesting. Maybe I have a question popping into my head about what are you going to do with the cash and the marketable securities. But before we get to that, let's talk cap structure first.
Yeah, very, very simple cap structure. Very clean company is about 200 million shares issued and outstanding. We're a little different than some companies because we have a dual listing. We're listed in the Toronto Stock Exchange, the big board. Easy ticker symbol, I love it. GOLD, gold. And then also in the NYSE American GLDG, we have a listing there. The cap structure, simple. We have cash, we have marketable securities, zero debt. So it's nice, clean, simple.
That's who are the largest shareholders?
The largest institutional shareholder is the VanEck through the GDXJ, the ETF. And then we have insiders and management owning somewhere between 5 to 7%, including our chairman and co-founder, Amir Adnani. He's the largest individual shareholder in the company.
Fantastic. All right, let's talk use of, I wouldn't say use of proceeds, but let's talk use of cash and marketable securities.
Yeah.
Run us a bit through the business plan, the strategy of the company.
Well, I guess, first of all, you have to understand how we got to that position of having the cash and the marketable securities. And that makes us a little different is because we've actually spun out two separate IPOs from assets within our portfolio. So since I came on about 5 years ago, we took a portfolio of assets that have been sitting as really part of an accumulator model. Amir Adnani, our chairman, co-chairman and founder, was buying assets at very opportune moments. We started down a path of unlocking value. How could we really enter into a harvest mode? One of the steps we took was to actually start putting assets into new vehicles, IPOing them. So we started that about 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago now. We launched a new royalty company called Gold Royalty Corporation. We created that with royalties from within the gold mining portfolio. We wrote royalties on assets in our portfolio, launched it with an IPO, brought in David Garofalo to be the president and CEO and chair to run the company. And today that's been a great success. We own 21.5 million shares worth about $80 million US. Nice to crystallize that value. And the market endorsed that by backing it with a $90 million IPO. The second stage, so it wasn't just luck that we did it, we also launched a focused asset in Alaska, our US gold mining. We launched that just over 2 years ago to take our Whistler Gold Copper project. We launched that on the NASDAQ. It raised over 20 million in its IPO. We've brought an experienced team from, our CEO came over from Newmont, so we recruited from the world's largest miner to build it, out the resources and expand it. And that company we own still 76% of, so great exposure there. And the value of those shares, 10 million of them, are worth about 120 million US dollars. So a great generation of value from within our portfolio.
If you were to put one word onto gold mining, a bit of a label, what would it be? Is it prospect generator? Is it explorer, business developer? What label would you put on it?
I would say yes, yes, and yes. So it makes it a little bit unique. I mean, we're different than the prospect generator or the incubator model because those companies specifically target assets to vend them out. I think we're at a unique position. We have the depth, we have the capital strength, and we have the technical team. We'll advance our projects to the point where we can unlock value for our shareholders. We don't have to define in advance when that is. That could be taking them to development, could be taking them to production, or it could be earlier stage if we find the right partner who can move them quicker. So I think we're really more of a leverage play and a growth play to a growing portfolio of gold-based assets throughout the Americas.
Perfect.
Staying on Gold Royalty and your shareholdings in it, I know Tether has recently invested. They're really active, Tether Investments. Have they approached you about maybe buying that block, and like, would you be open to it? Like, sort of run us a bit through how that discussion is going, because it's the buzz of the town, of course.
Yeah. Well, it's actually probably something I can't comment too much about. Two reasons. One is I'm an insider on Gold Royalty. I'm still their technical QP. But also they're acting a bit secretive as well. Okay. So really can't say much about it. But it is a unique model in that groups like Tether, what's really turning the world on its own ear in space is just how much cash they have to deploy. And I think they've taken stakes in a number of companies, not just Gold Royalty, they've done Metalla and various others. I think it's really showing the scale and the extent that capital is being deployed. And if you think of that model as more of a backdrop for the whole industry, and we're talking about the gold and mining industry, so much money has been focused on cryptocurrencies and other investment, currencies over the last few years. Very little has been coming into the gold space. We're now seeing a fundamental change so that new capital coming either into the space for the first time or being redeployed when people say, hey, fundamentals of gold are solid. I want to have some exposure to gold in my portfolio. So Tether may be representative of the broader industry approach of people wanting exposure to good gold assets.
Absolutely positive signal, because as you said, they have billions to deploy.
Exactly, yeah.
They've been buying farmland, physical gold as well, and then mining companies, or investing into them as well. Yeah. Let's come back to the gold mining portfolio. Run us a bit through it, like where can we expect the next catalyst to come from? If you had a pyramid, like where would you rank the projects?
It's a great question, and with 12 projects in the Americas, we constantly are rating and ranking our projects so we can stay focused on projects that will deliver the best value for our shareholders. And I think we have to start at the top where we've launched the largest ever program in the history of our company. We're focusing exploration in 2025 with the San Jorge project in Pará State in Brazil. We did diamond drilling this year. We've done RC drilling for the first time. We've also done an extensive auger drilling program, taking an existing solid resource with good grades of about 1 gram per ton, and we're looking to expand that. So define the existing resource and get better confidence. But we also have a regional land package, some 46,000 hectares there. So growing it out, looking to expand it. And remember, just along the street, sort of metaphorically speaking, the geological street, that is the geologic corridor, about 70 kilometers away, GMining have brought in Tocantinzinho into production, the first large-scale mine in the district ever. They're going to produce 200,000 ounces of gold this year for the next 10 plus years. We have the same style of mineralization, similar grades. The benefit of our project is we're right beside the main paved highway. About 2 kilometers from infrastructure, power, and road. Really makes exploration and then potential development a great...
What are the next catalysts we can expect from that project?
So we've completed the drilling. We've got a bit of modest RC work to finish up as some follow-up holes. We've had the first news release out about 2 weeks ago, starting to release the results. In the coming weeks and months, there'll be more news coming on those programs. And it's not the only one we're working on. That's the one that's been active in the field. We've announced a new, I call it a rediscovery at our Crucero project in Peru, where we've identified significant occurrence of antimony with already robust gold resource. So we've gone back into the original database, back to the original assay certificates, discovered antimony, and current prices and demand for antimony is attracting a lot of attention on already a good resource of gold. We're looking to see how we can maybe move forward with a new mineral resource that incorporates gold equivalency by bringing in the antimony. So some news to come out on that project as well.
Fantastic. Let's assume you have a big liquidity event. Let's assume Tether buys your 80 million shares of Gold Royalties, just making something up here. But how would you use that liquidity?
That's a great question. It'd be a nice problem to have, nice to have a cash flow problem. I think one thing I would say is we've always been very efficient with our capital. Our last public financing was in 2016. So we'd be very efficient with that capital, what we can do with it. I think the obvious thing to do is on prioritizing our assets, we can accelerate the work we're doing there. We've tried to be quite measured with our delivering our programs. We could increase those, we can increase the scope of those, so effectively move the work along quicker. I think the last thing we would want to do is try and spread ourselves too thin across too many projects. I think the key is to stay focused. We can find partners for some of our smaller assets. They can use their capital, move them along. We can take various carried interests to make sure we stay exposed to the upside as well.
Gotcha. Are you in the market for acquiring more projects? Like, are you done? Are you happy with what you have, or should we be paying attention more to maybe something new popping up?
It's a great question, and what I would say is that even though we have close to 12.5 million gold equivalent ounces measured, indicated, and over 9 million inferred gold equivalent ounces. We're always still looking for new opportunities. And even in this market, there are opportunities out there. What I would say is, though, if it's not going to move the needle for us, it's not something we're going to push the boat out and overpay for something. You've got to be careful in these markets you don't overpay because things are starting to get frothy. Our business model was buying things when they were affordable. However, there are opportunities where there might be a synergy, a neighboring property where consolidation and scale makes sense. So those are the type of things we would still continue to look at.
Would you buy something that you could actively work on, or would you buy something for the bank? Meaning like ounces in the ground or something like that?
Yeah, and I think we would only be actively chasing something that we could demonstrate a path to creating value. I say with enough exposure to gold right now, we have great leverage to that large resource. Adding ounces for the sake of ounces, it would be more about what can drive greater value. So if something we could move on quicker, we brought a particular skill set to. I'm a geologist myself. Our VP Exploration is an experienced geologist. If we knew a project or knew an area we could create value, that would be great. And particularly if it was an add-on as a synergistic project to one of our existing holdings.
Okay. Maybe coming back to the liquidity position, because you're in a quite unique position having massive shareholdings in gold royalty, US gold mining as well. Like, how do you sort of account for the liquidity itself? Meaning, are you actively selling small portions just to, because you need to refinance? You got G&A and you said you've successfully not done a private placement since 2016. How do you manage those positions?
Yeah, it's a great question. And what I would say is that our core holdings, we are very bullish on those assets and we're long holding. So we haven't been selling any of our US gold mining. We haven't sold any gold royalty. In fact, we've added to both accounts on the public market since their IPO. So we've backed those ones. We do have some smaller holdings that have come on, which we have a little more flexibility to. For example, over the past year, we did reduce some of our holdings in NevGold. We had a nice project there. We optioned to them. They were doing good work on a neighboring project in Nevada. We had a project in Idaho. We worked together with them to reduce our holding because it was probably too large. We had over 28%, brought it down to a much more manageable level of less than 20%. It worked for them to help us find a buyer. We worked with them. We can use that now, that cash, to deploy on our core assets. And we still have a very sizable stake and a good, strong relationship with NevGold going forward. So it's a good balance to manage the portfolio of equities. The core ones we're very long in, but we've got flexibility on some of the more junior ones that are less core.
Fantastic. Awesome. Maybe to put a bow around the conversation, Alastair, what can we expect from gold mining over the next 3 to 6 months here?
Yeah, it's a great question. There are some key catalysts, of course, coming out. We've invested a lot of that time and effort into our program in San Jorge in Brazil. We've only just started to come out with the results on that program, so they'll be coming out soon. We continue to work on the Crucero gold antimony project in Peru, so there'll be news on that. We have an additional wild card in the portfolio, which is a uranium asset few people know we have in the Athabasca Basin of Canada on the Alberta side. We've got drill permits over the summer for that, so that's now known occurrences of uranium with drill permits in hand, so there could be some news on that. Not our core focus, but it could be a good partnership. Excuse you, bless you. And then the other thing that's to bear in mind is that one of our core projects in Northern Canada, our Yellowknife project, we're very excited about the exploration work we've done this year, the compilation of data we've put together. We're looking to launch a more significant program on that next year. And what I would remind people there is that even though we have already a sizable resource, over 1 million ounces of gold at over 2 grams per ton, most of it open pittable at the project, that's measured and indicated, plus over 700,000 ounces inferred over 2 grams per ton. That does not even include a past producer on the property, which was one of the highest underground mines in Canada. 1 million ounces produced, a discovery mine, over 1 ounce per ton gold. It's a modern exploration target that might bear the same fruits as success we've seen in the past 10, 20, 30 years at places like Red Lake or Kirkland Lake or even Osisko at Windfall Lake, all high-grade past producing mines. That's a great target we see at our project at Yellowknife.
Fantastic. Awesome. Alastair, really appreciate meeting you. And thanks for taking the time. Thanks so much for joining us here in New Orleans. Much appreciated. Thank you so much. And to everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in here to the Gold Newsletter from the floor of the New Orleans Investment Conference, hosted by our good friend Brien Lundin. If you enjoyed this conversation, hit that like and subscribe button. Helps us out tremendously. Helps us reach a wider investor base as well. And we appreciate it. Thank you so much for doing that. And take care out there.